Senator Kelly, great to speak with you.
Good to be on, Mo.
So I want to start with the latest revelations on Wednesday from The Atlantic. After the White House downplayed things, it appears The Atlantic has now gone ahead and printed more from that Signal group chat. First, have you had a chance to read it? And I wanted to get your initial reaction to it.
Yeah, I read it this morning shortly after it came out, and it's what I expected based on the answers to our questions in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday. When I was asking the DNI especially about specifics about weapons and targets and operational information, there were long pauses before she answered. And my suspicion is because there was very relevant operational information in that signal chain that hadn't been previously shared. As you mentioned, The Atlantic put it out there this morning. My initial reaction is this stuff is dangerous to be put on an unclassified application that we know our adversaries try to hack into, especially if you're a high-level government official. It was what the Secretary of Defense did especially was reckless. So
I found it notable that as Jeffrey Goldberg released that latest piece of what Hegseth put out, the timing of the attack, the cadence, White House National Security Advisor Michael Waltz tweeted out, no locations, no sources and methods, no war plans. Foreign partners had already been notified that strikes were imminent. Bottom line, President Trump is protecting America and our interests.
Well, F-18s, anybody who knows anything about our military, about aviation, knows those are naval assets. They know they're likely coming off of an aircraft carrier. They could be Marine based at an airfield. But when you're the Houthis and you know there's an aircraft carrier in the Red Sea and you see F-18s launch, not take off, by the way, a little bit different. I'm a naval aviator. I've flown 39 combat missions over Iraq and Kuwait in the first Gulf War. That says they're coming from an aircraft carrier. And it was 2 hours or so before they actually launched. He put this information out there on this unsecured app, Signal. If I was the Houthis and I knew this, and then I see information about time on target and MQ-9s and Tomahawk launches, I have a pretty good idea what's coming at me. That's the kind of information you never want to give our adversary. That is the most sensitive information, period. Not human intelligence. It is about what the next strike is going to be.
So what do you make of the downplaying from the White House? What do you make of the answers that you got yesterday?
Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah. I mean, this White House isn't going to own up mistakes. Donald Trump, come on. Is he ever going to say he was wrong? Have you ever heard him say that or own something that did not go right? So 100% I expect him to say this. They're going to continue to say it. The vice president said it in a tweet, nothing here. Well, the Secretary of Defense released the most important part about an imminent plan, which is when it was going to happen. And where are these U.S. airplanes coming from? When you say F-18s, they're coming from an aircraft carrier. The Houthis know which aircraft carrier is in the Red Sea. They probably know generally about where it is. It gives them the ability to alert their surface-to-air missile defenses, their air defense system. You should expect these airplanes to show up. Now, thankfully, thank God this information did not get to them, but it could have. And I think it demonstrates the incompetence of the Secretary of Defense.
What are you hearing from your Republican colleagues behind the scenes? Because we've seen them in public. What are the conversations happening off camera?
They're not happy about this, and they realize the gravity of the situation and the risk that it put our pilots who have a really hard job. I mean, it's really hard to fly through enemy air defenses. I've done it. I've had a missile blow up next to my airplane. I had massive amounts of AAA shot at me. It certainly isn't fun. It is very, very risky. You're putting your life on the line, literally, for your country. And then to have the highest official in the Defense Department, the Secretary of Defense, have a colossal screw up like this that puts you at more risk. That's unexpected. This is the guy that's supposed to be looking out for you.
Yeah, how do you think that makes folks feel? I mean, we've been hearing from people in the Mo News community, in the military. Someone messaged me, I'd spend the rest of my life at Fort Leavenworth in prison if I did anything remotely like this, put anything out like that. What would the average pilot or average member of the military, given the rules that they know when it comes to security clearances and top secret information, how are they feeling right now?
Well, let me comment on the thing you said about Fort Leavenworth. I don't think somebody who did this would spend the rest of their life in Fort Leavenworth. I do think they would be fired. They could be prosecuted. They could face charges under the UCMJ. They could be punished significantly for this, and they would be. And you certainly would never be promoted, and you almost certainly would be fired if any officer in the military, if any admiral or general or mid-grade officer, junior officer did what Secretary Hegseth did, they'd be gone. No doubt. How are folks feeling? They're probably feeling pretty crappy about this. I mean, this is the guy that's supposed to be sticking up for them, coming up with the plans, making the decisions to how to equip and train our force, and who is in the chain of command. The Secretary of Defense is the person in the Defense Department that commands the forces. And now you have your brand new Secretary of Defense. He's been on the job 2 months, and he obviously doesn't get it. He doesn't understand this position. Why I didn't vote for him. My view was this guy was more unqualified than any other nominee ever to be the Secretary of Defense. He spent the last 7, 8, 9 years as a Saturday morning Fox News journalist. Sure, he was a combat veteran early in his short career in the military, right? On active duty, not for a very long time. That does not make you qualified for this job.
So what would you like to see happen next?
I think the president should fire him.
Secretary Hegseth.
Yeah, he should fire him, without a doubt. And I think any other president would fire him.
What about the rest of the folks on the chat, the rest of the national security leaders on the president's team?
Well, we're going to go back and take a look at the DNI's testimony when I was questioning her about targets and weapons. And I think they need to reevaluate, how they conducted themselves in front of the committee, and really think about their next appearance in front of the committee, about being entirely transparent with us. It's our job. It's their job to do that. I think with Mike Waltz, I think he was incredibly careless.
Do you think he needs to resign or be fired?
You can't fire everybody. It would really put us at risk right now. You need a national security advisor. I look at what Mike did as careless. I imagine he learned his lesson from this.
That's what the president said yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably going to go and review he's probably not going to use Signal for anything like this again. He shouldn't. None of them should. But Hegseth just took the extra step. He's the guy that really put folks at risk.
What can Congress do, and what do you think? I mean, obviously Democrats are in the minority there, and you know that full well over there in the Senate. Should we expect, as members of the public, that the Congress will be following up on this? What are your conversations like right now with your Republican colleagues?
Yeah, we'll be trying to have other conversations with the DNI and the director of the CIA, that's for sure. And the Secretary of Defense should be coming in front of the Armed Services Committee. So I'm on the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee. I expect to see the SecDef there answering questions about this. Why did he do this? What was he thinking? Did he not understand that this is not a secure system, or did he not care? Was he so into? I mean, for a second, why do these people on this signal chain need to know this operational information? They don't need to know. This is the kind of thing you go to them later, after the strike is over, right? The president approved this. You could get everybody on a secure system, said, hey, this is complete. This is the battle damage assessment. These are the assets we use. This is the number of MQ-9s, Tomahawks, F-18s. Here's the ordnance they were carrying. Here's the targets we hit. Here's some overhead imagery. Mission success. We killed a bunch of terrorists. Why do you have to let them know so you can all share a bunch of like fist emojis and flag emojis? I mean, what is that? That's not how you run a military.
For those of us not in this world, do you think there were things that were acceptable to discuss on Signal, and what should have been taken off of that chain? Or should they not be using it at all?
Well, I use Signal. Everybody, you're better off sending something on Signal than you're on a text message. I mean, because it's encrypted end to end, but it's hackable. Mm-hmm. And we know that. We know our adversaries try to get into our phones. And if you're at a very high level in the government, you know that for sure. You have secure systems to do these things on. The kind of stuff you should do on Signal would be like, hey, let's have a meeting about that thing we talked about yesterday, without saying what the thing was. And by the way, let's do it in the skiff. Or, hey, we need to get everybody on a secure system at this time.
One of the things that came up with the president yesterday, and I'll let you go here in a second, is there's a convenience factor. Are there ways for them to be able to mobily discuss these things that are secure?
Yeah, there are mobile systems that they could use that are secret in TS as well. They could do that if they want. Sure, convenience. Convenience is great, but not when it comes at the expense of putting service members that are already significantly risking their lives at further risk. Tough. I don't give a crap about your convenience when it comes to, how we're going to treat these pilots coming off the aircraft carrier. This was not necessary in any way. I mean, if it should have been, this kind of information should have been shared after the strike was over. At that point, it's not that big of a deal, but it should have been shared in a secure system.
Before I let you go, on a completely different matter, since I'm speaking here to a former astronaut, I don't often get to talk to people who've been in space. Yeah. The return of the two recent astronauts from space after 286 days. You went on multiple missions up there. Your brother was up there for 340 days. Curious what recovery is like back on Earth, both yours, your brother's, expectations those astronauts should have back on Earth after such a prolonged period up there.
Yeah, my longest flight was about 2 weeks. I've made 4 trips to the International Space Station. I've known Butch and Suni for years. I was a test pilot instructor at the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School with Suni 30-something years ago, right? So I've known him for a long time. Recovery from a mission is about how long you were on the mission. If you go into space for 2 weeks, it's going to take about 2 weeks. My brother, it took about a year. Suni and Butch, I imagine, will be 8 or 9 months. She's a big runner, though. She's probably running every bit of, what she was supposed to be doing in space. That helps, I'd say, a little bit. But it's hard on you. It's really hard on your body. You lose muscle mass, bone mass. My brother lost 20% of his heart mass from being in space for a year. So you come back and you've got some rehab to do. And you'll get most of that back. You won't ever get all of it back. But you get 99% of what you lost back, so you'll be in pretty good shape. The big unknown is long-term, how does the radiation going to impact you? You get in space, you get about 10 chest X-rays worth of radiation every single day.
Oh, wow.
So that takes its toll. We'll see. My brother and I, when I'm 80, if he looks 100 and I look 80, you'll say, oh, space flight's not good for you.
So there's a long-term study there between you and your brother that will really understand the difference there. Senator, thank you for taking time with us today.
All right. Thank you, Mo.